Well, Julie, I'm so excited to be here with you, and I have so many questions for you.
I'm so scared/thrilled to be with you.
So-
I think that's the appropriate emotional combination.
Yeah, I think it's a great combination. I mean, if you're like, I really don't want to be here with you, not very fun. I have a funny story.
Okay.
So many years ago, one of my early auditions was for a movie called 3000.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so most people don't know, but 3000 was what the original Pretty Woman script was.
Yes.
And that movie was very dark.
Mm-hmm.
And the ending was really heavy.
Threw her out of the car, threw the money on top of her, as memory serves, and just sort of drove away, leaving her in some dirty alley.
Right, so it really read like kind of a dark, gritty art movie. When you first read it, it was obviously that
Yes.
incarnation of it.
I got that job.
Right.
I got the part in 3000.
Right.
And it's so fascinating. I love that you're asking me this question because it relates to some of the questions that I have for you. But I had no business being in a movie like that, really. And I get the part. The studio that had it, this small movie company, folded over the weekend. And by Monday, I didn't have a job.
Wow.
So the script, there was one producer that stayed with the script, and then it went to Disney. And I thought, went to Disney? Are they going to animate it? Like, how does this become a Disney movie? And then when Gary Marshall came on, and I think because he's a great human being, he met me just because I had once had the job, and he felt it would only be fair to at least meet me since I had this job for 3 days and then lost it. And they changed the whole thing, and it really became more something that is in my wheelhouse than what it originally was.
That's so amazing. That's such a cool, wild story. I'm so excited to hear that second part of it. I never knew any of that.
Yeah.
But I also always had a fantasy of recasting you in 3000, the original script.
Mm-hmm.
And you could even do it now.
I couldn't do it then. I couldn't do it now.
Really?
Thank
Why?
God it fell apart. I mean, even in Pretty Woman, like if I just had to be in a slip, I'd be covered in hives. I would just be so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was like breaking out in like hives in a cold sweat watching Escape at Dannemora. I was just like,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
Christ. I can't,
really intense.
I just don't even know. I think, what are they saying just before action in the bushes like that? Like what,
Right.
how do you do that? What do you got to talk to your.
So for me, I'm completely the opposite in my personal life. Like I remember when I was 4 years old, we had a swim thing with our school, and all the girls were changing, and I was upstairs hiding behind a chair to change. And this older girl was like, "What are you doing hiding back there? We're all girls, and we're all putting on our bathing suits." So I was born really modest. I was like, I don't want anyone to see me naked.
I would have been in the chair next to you.
I take baths in the dark often, really in real life.
Okay.
So I'm really uptight, and yet I've played several parts that are very sexually more free than I am and comfortable. Some of the characters use sexuality as a survival mechanism. Some use it to get love or feel alive. Some use it as a bargaining chip for power and to move on. So for me, when I was looking at the sex scenes in Escape at Dannemora, it was like, I'm going to gain all this weight. It's going to be the first time I'm ever not going to use body makeup because I want to have the conversation. First of all, I believe this lady she's more comfortable in her sexuality than I am. And I want to play a part that's not me and move away from myself. And I want to have the conversation. Who's allowed to be sexual? Who's allowed to be sexual on film? What kind of body types are acceptable? Who's sexy and who gets to decide who's sexy? All of those kind of things that I don't think we ever get to really talk about or think about.
Well, you were hot as a pistol and very, very compelling. But I just would think, and then do you break for lunch after that? Or like what, where is everybody? Like these are I think about the mechanics of it because coming from, I can understand it and am fascinated by it as a character study. And I thought that you were so brilliant in that show as I expected you to be. So that's what you've done for me with your career is you've just created this expectation that I know if you're in something, it will be of a great masterful quality that you've put
Oh my God, that's
a
so
lot
nice.
of thought into it. And that's why I'm in love with you.
Oh my God, you're so sweet.
So I've said it. But I do think about the mechanics, like how do you get on the set? How do you get off the set? Who's standing there? What if you don't like someone that's in this
And that's happened too.
little sewing
Circle.
adjunct?
Well, part of it, what I have found in these different parts that I've played that have been more sexual, there's always this kind of coven of women. They're from the wardrobe department and makeup people, and they're there with robes, and they're like covering you immediately, and they're like, "Girl, I'm here." They don't even say anything, but they're like, "We're here."
Yeah.
And so you feel this strength from women, and then early on, even male allies were like, good ones were like, "Yeah, we're not going to have any monitors around the set."
Yeah.
I mean, I had to do this one part with David Lynch, and I was going to have to walk around totally naked in the scene. And I was so uptight. And we had all the conversations with the crew, like, everyone who doesn't have to be here, don't be here. And we're not going to have monitors, and da-da-da. And so I said, and maybe this is inappropriate, maybe I could get sued for this someday now. But I said, okay, we're going to roll. I'm going to take off my robe. If I turn around and I see you and I know you don't need to be on this set, I'm going to come punch you in the face.
Oh, well done.
So all of a sudden, about 40 people went scattering into the desert. So, I mean, I've also threatened violence.
And I would believe if you said, if I see you, I'm going to punch you in the face, I believe that you would punch him in the face.
I probably would have punched someone in the face because they know if they don't need to be there.
Yeah.
And they're just imposing themselves on something that's vulnerable and hard for you to get past. But I think part of my survival mechanism is also talking with the other actor about what's emotionally going on for these people right now, our characters.
Right.
So you just kind of keep bringing it back to, this isn't me and you. This is our characters, and what do we want to show as part of their personalities or their relationship.
It's so complex.
It's very weird. But I have more questions for you.
Okay. I know you have your paper. And I have to say something about people with paper. It annoys me, and you're the only one that gets away with it in my heart.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I don't know why, because
you.
you're a great speech giver, first of all.
Oh, thanks.
Your speeches are always great, and then you have some little caboose that you bring in just before you walk off. And by the way, there's also this I want you all to think about, and it's so incredible.
Oh, thank you.
I love when you do that.
Oh, thanks.
And why did you leave that job?
I quit.
Why?
My mother got hurt, and I had to come home and take care of her.
So you quit the job in Tampa because your mom got hurt and now you work here at this restaurant?
Well, it's what I could get. I had to come back home, and
Because your mom got hurt?
yes.
All right, so early on, you broke a lot of records, and people started talking about your pay. And you were the highest paid actor in Hollywood.
Right.
And there was a lot of conversation about that. In the years that passed, then that kind of rolled back and went away again. But how did that feel? First of all, to have that conversation happen, to be there in that moment from your own work, breaking that kind of glass ceiling there, and did it feel like pressure?
It never felt like pressure. It felt, all the salaries in those days where there was just a lot of money to be spent making films, which there really just isn't that kind of money now being spent on films. It all seemed kind of ridiculous in a comical way. I thought, oh, okay, sure, this is ridiculous, but I'll be part of this party. And I feel like there are so many, particularly someone like Barbra Streisand, I think of that, I'm just walking in a path that she has hacked out with a machete. So to be a little part of, you know, the gardener that's picking some weeds that have come up since these incredible women before me have really made a path for all of us to be artists in our own right and to be able to pick and choose the things that we want to do and the way that we want to express ourselves as artists. It was nice to feel that I had a little puzzle piece to that, but I didn't feel a pressure because I've been paid less and done just as, you know, active a job as I did when we were all being ridiculously overpaid.
Well, I wanted to get to that because you went from doing these gigantic movies, getting paid an enormous amount of money, and then started taking little movies that you're basically getting scale or actors minimum wage on, right? So that must have been a conscious choice for you. Were you feeling as an actor like, I want some different kind of material? Or
Well, I think the big moment in my career for me was when I had done a lot of films in a row, because that's how it happens, right? You're sitting around waiting for someone to give you something good to read, and then all of a sudden you read 4 good things or 5 good things, right? And I think it was after I did Sleeping with the Enemy, maybe. And I'm still at that point in my early 20s. And I saw some really great actors that I admired what they were doing, and I would think, oh, she's great, and she's great. And then there were a few movies that I thought, why is she in that movie? She's better than that narrative. And I realized there's a kind of sense of, in the business at that time, of movement is what keeps you relevant, or you just have to keep going. And I don't know, I just had this instinct to stop doing anything if it didn't feel like that passionate. I mean, what does it take you to say yes to a project? Because for me, it's just a feeling I have when I turn the last page of the script. I know it's something that I want to do or not do.
sometimes it's actually a fight within me. Sometimes I don't want to play that part. And then I have to examine, like, why am I afraid of playing that part? Why am I having that kind of reaction to that part? If I say to myself, this is a really good story and it's really well written, I don't want to play that part. Then I have to dig deeper. Is it because that part is underwritten and a bad part, or is it because I'll have to look at stuff in my own self, overcome, I don't know, maybe biases I have or fears that I have personally that I'll have to push through. But generally, I read something, I have to really like the story or feel engaged in some kind of way that it makes sense, that I want to see it. And then it's who's involved in it, who's the director. And I have come to a point in my career right now, I want young people to come up and I want young directors to have opportunities, but I also feel like I want people like also that have a lot of skill set. Because I want to be learning from people. Not that I can't from young directors, but I also feel like sometimes it's frustrating to watch the steep learning curve.
You need some experience.
Yeah, I'm sort of feeling like that at this moment in my career. Like, I really want people. It was so fun working on Escape at Dannemora, working with Benicio del Toro and Paul Dano and Ben Stiller. I felt like they were all coming as really seasoned artists who really knew their craft in a deep way, and I felt like I learned so much from each actor. And the project I just did, The Act, was different because Joey King actually has a lot of experience acting. She's been acting since she was a kid. But I also got to see her, that youth, that discovery, that openness, and it was so great working with her. So I love working with other actors. I feel like they're my greatest teachers, my actors I work with, you know, my co-stars. But I do want to be with people that know their game.
And the people inside, They get to be right angles, too.
What the fuck are you talking about?
And they're the angles that get bent. And you know who that is.
So on your new show, Homecoming, which is a really interesting, I feel like, emotional departure, your character in a way. A lot of people see you oftentimes as
Much nicer.
well, you have this beautiful sense of humor and joy about you, and way of breaking the moment with humor that I think people appreciate. But this character is really kind of darker. How is it working on Homecoming? How do you feel about this character and everyone that you're working with on this project?
It was really, it was a dream job pretty much from start to finish. I mean, if someone asked me to kind of just be with that same group over and over and over, yeah, I wouldn't hesitate. Because there was just something about, it's what you're talking about too, about having experience, but you also want youth and innovation and just a new kind of point of view. And I felt like we had all those things in abundance. And, as a collective, it was really extraordinary. And for me to come into a television show, the first sort of production type email I got, I thought, why do I not understand what this is telling me? I see a lot of information and I don't really know what it is. 30 years of call sheets and production emails, how do I not understand what this is telling me?
And what was it?
It's just different nomenclature. I don't know. It was just, talking about blocks, and then scripts were sort of, a scene would be 26E and then there'd be 26, H, and I didn't know what anything was. But then they ended up hiring as a first AD this incredible man, Peter Cohn, who had been the first AD on The Pelican Brief.
Oh, wow.
A movie that I did with the incredible Alan Pakula. So I went in and had a quick lesson in the lingo.
FTV.
Yes.
And episodics.
But we filmed it like a movie in 2 parts. Now, is that what you did on Medium? Because you were on that show a really long time.
The Medium would often be written the night before pages. Sometimes
how
I
would you
didn't
do
ever
that?
get a full script. It was crazy making.
You
It
don't
was
seem like that
exhausting.
kind of an actor.
Well, I was like, who's the bad guy? What's happening? Sometimes they'd be writing scenes and we'd get them the night before and I'd say, we got to tweak this one a little because I already played that moment in this other scene you gave me before.
So you were having to keep track.
Well, what was cool about it is sort of like in real life, you think you're going to the dentist on Tuesday, but it turns out you have a car accident and your grandma dies and 15 things happen between now and Tuesday.
Are they all bad?
Also, you win the lottery.
So that
All of
happened
these
too.
things happen between now and Tuesday, go to the dentist. So come Tuesday, you're not going to the dentist. You're going to get your lottery check. Okay. So, but anyway.
On your way to your grandmother's funeral.
Exactly. This is really
This writes itself, people. I just don't even know how this is. I feel a talk show coming on for us.
I know.
We're good at
I think
this.
so. We are good at this. So, yeah, I just jumped into it like in life, we don't know what's really around the corner. We think we do, but we're actually figuring it out as we go along. So that was a weird process I had to develop for that.
And was there a different director for every episode?
Sometimes we had repeat directors, but in general, we had a different. Yes,
That
and
seems like the hardest part to me.
it was hard because at least maybe your directors, if they cared to, could read the director of the 10th episode could read all 9 or watch cuts of the first 9 by the time they direct the 10th, right, of your episode.
Right? That would be expected.
Right. So for us, sometimes they wouldn't watch, 100 episodes. So they'd have an idea, they'd come in and you'd go, we kind of did that on this other one, or we did it 2 episodes ago, but they haven't been cut yet.
Right.
So you haven't seen them yet.
Wow.
So it's a real machine that moves so fast.
Wow. And how many years did you do
And it wasn't like shooting a movie. Like you guys, did you have more time or?
We had time, and we also had a strange alchemy that things, going into the first week, and I think so much credit has to go to Sam Esmail, who was our director of the entire show. He's just such a smart guy, and he's so interesting and interested, and he has very clear ideas. And the first 3 days, I think, of shooting, of course, I'm so nervous and want to do everything right and make a great first impression on everybody. And we come in, and Stefan and I, and we're letter perfect, and we are, everything is just, and we wrapped the day's work before lunch on the first day of shooting.
Wow.
And it was like, well, that's beginner's luck. Okay, and then by Wednesday, the UPM comes to us and says, so listen, we have to work an 8-hour day. Like, so if we have to start rescheduling this stuff. But there was something about this group that we knew our goals collectively, and we knew how to get there and how to encourage each other in a way that there was a momentum that I thought was kind of extraordinary.
And you're working with great actors in that.
Great actors. Stefan James, who I didn't know prior to this.
Great.
He was one of the men that I read with to get the part. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things where when you're on this side of an audition and you see people walk in, and within 20 seconds, my stomach's in a knot, and I'm like, wow, I just remember how awful it was to walk into a room of 8 people sitting there, and now I'm one of those 8 people, and you've been there for 2.5 minutes, and I know this is never going to work. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to get out of it. Mm-hmm. It's so painful and stressful. And Stefan happened to be the last man that came in, and he walked out of the room, and I just remember turning to everybody and I said, well, our work is done here. He's just there's just something so great about him. He has gravity, but he has so much joy and effervescence, and was on time, ready to go every day.
He's so talented.
He's so talented. And Shea Wiggum, who's incredible in the show, and my friend Dermot Mulroney, who
I love Dermot too.
Sam brought in because he loves My Best Friend's Wedding, and he just wanted us to be together again.
Oh, that's so cool.
And yes, it was great. It was really great.
What do I inspire you to do?
Well, just make a fresh start. Leave the past behind like you're doing, but together.
I was back here at the break room, and I said, who's got a question for Julia Roberts? What is it? Kind of a coffee cooler, kind of a questionnaire. And I thought, why don't I just tweet that out? If you had one question for Julia Roberts, what would it be?
Did you really do that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So I did, madam. And by the way, she's got her phone in case her
I
kid
was
won the soccer
checking
game.
Soccer scores.
So I'm going to check my Twitter responses.
Okay, well, I checked the score. I don't think it went well.
Uh-oh. Let's see. So one of the questions that people had for you was, who is going to sit on the throne at the end of Game of Thrones? Do you watch Game of Thrones?
I'm going to say Barack Obama for 500. I've never watched the Game of Thrones, but someone just told me a couple of days ago, oh, you look like what I said it earlier, and now I've forgotten. You look like one of the
Starks?
The wildlings. I look like a wildling.
Oh.
And I just went with that. I didn't know
or
what
a
it
free
meant.
person?
Well,
or
because my hair is super curly. Mm-hmm. I mean, this has been professionally done for the occasion. But I was at the beach, and so my hair was telling its own stories. And someone said, "Oh, you're like a wildling," and I didn't know. Cute. Who will be on the throne? Do you? What's your guess?
I think there may be several thrones.
Really?
Several people. I think they might parcel off lands to different people. But I don't know. Now Arya and that Baratheon boy, I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, tonight is the night, isn't it?
Tonight's one of them, yeah.
Okay.
There's only 3 left or 4.
Wow. It's the end of an era.
Somebody asked what...
Now, do you know any of these people that are asking these questions?
No,
I don't. All the millions of people that follow you on Twitter that have participated in this.
Yes, because
Okay.
you're a loved woman. Deal with it. Deal with it, woman. Okay, so...
Then I should be on the throne at the end of Game of Thrones.
Oh my gosh. You better do
Spoiler
some-
alert.
That would be hilarious. I mean, if I love that. They
Me
should do
and a massive faux fur.
Saturday Night Live. Like, it's going to be this one, this one. They all die, and Julia Roberts is on the throne.
All by myself with no one to rule over.
Oh my God.
That's how
Well,
I feel when all the kids go to school.
Oh, really?
Nobody cares what needs to happen now.
Somebody was asking, what's your favorite classic film?
Oh, well, I think my favorite comedy would be Philadelphia Story.
Oh, sweet.
And my favorite drama would be Now Voyager, Betty Davis.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's so incredible.
Yeah.
What
about you? Do you like classic movies, modern movies? What's your genre?
I like all of it. I mean, I do tend to like darker material, I guess. Part of
can
a
kinda
couple
see that in you.
performances. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
kind of a dark type of attitude person. Well, two of the performances by women that made me want to act were Jessica Lange in Frances and Jenna Rollins in Woman Under the Influence.
Yeah.
But my favorite film is F.W. Murnau's Sunrise from 1927.
You're complex. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. You are
Thank
not
you.
sunshine and kittens.
I'm not. No.
I like that.
I'm not, yeah. Kind of tough around the edges. But actually, I'm pretty silly.
I see
Pretty
that
silly
too.
inside.
Mm-hmm.
Silly and tough all
Beyond
at
those
once.
aubergine glasses, I see you're silly. I don't like scary things. I don't like to be scared. I don't watch Game of Thrones because I've had a lot of friends say, you can't
Too
handle it.
scary for you.
Too scary. Maybe too much sex. Is there a lot of sex?
There's a lot of sex.
A lot of sex and a lot
scary.
of swords, killing, massacres maybe.
Yeah, and there's zombies and stuff like that.
Oh, then it's for sure not for me. There's zombies?
There's dragons and zombies.
Okay,
yeah.
dragons I can get my arms around, but zombies, that's a whole different.
Well, now there's a zombie dragon, so I don't know if you can handle that.
What is happening?
A lot is going on over there. You were also called America's Sweetheart. So
You
how
just
did
went
that
very
feel?
Barbara Walters.
Why, yes, I did. I do have a secret wish to be a talk show host someday.
I think that day has come.
I do too. See, I'm living out my fantasy.
We're here.
Exactly. So you were called America's Sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that feel? Did it feel limiting? Did it feel exciting?
Well, let us not forget, it wasn't, I didn't feel like it was, the beauty pageant sash, America's Sweethearts. It was the name of a movie I was in. And so it just seemed an easy, oh, okay, let's just
Put those together?
let's stitch those two things together. So it was really neither here nor there. I have found, and you may agree or disagree, and I know you will, I'm very unemotional about stuff like that. It doesn't, I don't feel that I have to then live up to something or that it's some kind of pressure or understanding of me. I feel that it shows, in fact, a greater sense of protection between me as a person and me as an actor because,
But
all
that's
these,
probably very healthy and
I
a
guess
good
so.
coping skill. So do you feel that your celebrity or whoever you are in people's mind or people think you are in society is different than your true self in your real life?
I think it used to be completely different, and now I think it's just different. But also, I've never been a person that attracted the kind of, I think of it as like musician energy, where people see a musician in the grocery store, and you would just kind of go, "Oh my God!" I don't.
Really?
I get this kind of energy, like, oh, you cut your hair.
Really?
Oh, it still looks cute.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
Wow.
It'll grow back. But that's, but I think because people think of me more as like their neighbor or, oh, my daughter looks just like you, or, those
Wow.
are the kinds of things that people come up and approach me with, as opposed to an energy that's more than I can handle.
Wow, that's awesome.
What do people say when they come up to you?
Well, sometimes they say, you look a lot like Patricia Arquette, but she's taller than you. Oh, I get that. Sometimes, usually just people are nice. They say, me and my daughter always watch you watched you on Medium,
Yeah.
or you really freaked me out on The Act, or thank you for making me think of people like Tilly in a different way from Escape at Dannemora. Usually they're just nice people saying nice things, you know. I don't really get mean people. I guess, luckily, people, I guess, just keep that to themselves, or I don't know what they do.
I don't think they do. People don't keep that to themselves, so I think you're
Right.
getting the genuine
Wow.
emotion.
Now, when you think about acting, what do you love about acting?
I think all of it, just all of the kind of circus, funny, nutty, the hours, you know, that you work so hard to not live in a trailer so that you can then find a job where you live in a trailer.
Yeah.
There's an irony to that.
Yeah, there
that
really
amuses
is.
me.
Never thought
I'm just super amused by all of it, and I love the camaraderie, and I love that it's this incredible team effort.
Mm-hmm.
I love all that.
Yeah, it's kind of a circus life.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of humor on sets, and you meet really cool people.
Yes.
And they're so good at what they do. I mean, I always really depend a lot on the prop person.
Props are important. I was super prop heavy in Homecoming. I've never been so, I've always been kind of propless. And I realized I was making up for a lot of lost time.
What were your props?
I had, in any given scene, I would be, well, first of all, we had all these really long takes where I'd get up from my office and I would be on the phone and get my car keys and grab a bag and, you know, hopefully something to, you know, balance in my other free hand and lock a door and go down some stairs and then go through a thing and, you know, go from my phone to my headset maybe, or it was just always, you know, something, get out to the car and then I have to open the car and load up the car and get into the car.
And get your seatbelt on.
And get the seatbelt on and not hit the sandbag that's marking where the car is going to go, you know.
Yeah.
It was humorous and it entertained Sam to no end. It just, you know, how about a glass of juice while you're, you know, walking
that's
down
funny.
It was amusing. But it's interesting, props really do, for me in that in particular, everything was just another layer of texture and another something, I don't know.
Do you typically approach characters, like do you have one process that you go through with each job? Is there kind of a structure to it, or do you use different approaches for different characters?
I think it's always different, and I think I don't know, I'm curious about you, because for me, I feel like there's always one piece of the puzzle that reveals itself to me early on, and it can be something like, you know, what my hair is supposed to look like, or just something, and then I feel like once that first piece reveals itself to me, the other things kind of come in steady stream.
Usually, I mean, I've been working on things before where it was like up to the last minute, like the piece hasn't fit yet. I'm freaking out right now. You know, am I going to find the piece? Sometimes it's a piece of clothing you put on in a wardrobe fitting, or a little sound in a rehearsal that comes out in your voice, like like that's the girl. Okay, now I know who that is.
Do you like rehearsal?
Stuff like that.
Do you like a lot of rehearsal?
I like real rehearsal, experimentation rehearsal, really. I don't like just reading the script over and over again. That doesn't do anything for me. We could do that on a Skype call, you know. I mean, we could talk it through, sure. There's a place for that, but to really explore a scene, like, okay, this is what we have written, but what is this scene really about? And what if we try this scene? Okay, we're not filming it right now, so why don't we just try a scene where we dig deeper into this thing? It's a part of this relationship I don't think we are looking at yet in this script. So why don't we do a kind of improvisation around that? Maybe we'll never use that in the movie, but it might inform us in some way.
That was a big risk you took for me.
That part of it was fun.
You're fun.
Let's just keep talking about you. Can we talk about True Romance?
Yes, we can.
Was that an intense, crazy experience? That movie is so wonderful and crazy, and there's 107 incredible people in it. Did you love making it?
I loved making it.
Oh, I'm so happy.
I loved making it. It was so fun, and I knew it was so fun when I did that, when I did Flirting with Disaster. I kept saying to people, if people would ever complain, I'd say, you are not going to complain about this movie because you're going to be so happy you were in this movie. And this is so incredible to work with all these people. And, you know, some of those great actors are gone, and Tony Scott's gone. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, Dennis Hopper, James Gandolfini, Chris Penn, a lot of people that are gone from that movie.
Such a great movie. You're so great in it.
Oh, thanks.
There's just,
thanks.
it's funny, and I mean, I can't remember what I had for lunch 2 days ago, but I can picture you like in that car looking and smiling out the back window like I watched the movie this morning, which I promise I did not.
Okay. I remember seeing Mystic Pizza and being really excited because also I felt like as a girl, I didn't really get to grow up watching a lot of girls on film and friendships and sisterhood and talking about falling in love and relationships and girls working, you know, and their first job. I
Yeah.
have goosebumps right now. And you guys were all so charming and you're so wonderful in that. And I felt like you were a little going through things I hadn't quite gone through quite yet, but I was so excited to go through them. And I felt like I was living vicariously through you. And I just really loved that movie.
I'm so
And it
happy
was
to hear
really,
that. I love that too.
Yeah.
That was a fun. We actually just had a little reunion of the Mystic Pizza folk not that many years ago for Entertainment Weekly, and it was so fun to see everybody. And now we're all grown up and have kids, and aren't these sort of like baby adults with, you know, nothing but time on our hands. And now it's like 1,000 things going at once.
yeah.
It's nice to see everybody.
I have a terrible audition
You do?
story. Yeah. So I went to audition once because it's really hard, you know, the audition process. I was always horrible at it.
Yeah.
And I always looked at auditions like they were unfinished work. Like,
Now, did you start off, not to interrupt, in LA or in New York? So when you're auditioning, is this like?
It's
you're-
LA.
LA, okay.
I was in LA and I was a terrible auditioner to begin with. And I had this audition for this movie and it was like a girl band or something. So, okay, cool. It was for this Italian girl drummer in the band. She's kind of tough. So I put this, oh my gosh, this temporary rinse in my hair that was very dark.
That's what I did for Mystic Pizza.
See?
We're the same
See
person.
how it is?
I'm the tall you.
But
And you're the
you are
petite
the
me.
successful version of me. Because I went to the audition and all of a sudden they said, okay, so let's do the dance part. And there's like 30 girls and I'm like, what dance part? I thought it was a band. They're like, yeah, but they're also dancing. So all of a sudden I'm dyslexic. It's like 1, 2, 3, kick. And all these people are like dancers. I'm bumping into people.
You're kicking
I'm
girls.
Sweating.
They think you're trying to take them out one by one.
Oh, it's a nightmare. And now I'm sweating and the fake hair dye is pouring down my white tank top. And I look miserable. It's all over my face. I'm sweaty. I'm a horror show. And then the director's like, well, okay, let's do the acting part of the audition. And I was just in this flop sweat nightmare.
You're like a scene from Carrie with blackness.
I just looked bizarre. So, yeah,
And you did not get that part.
I did not get that part. I mean, I would have given myself a second shot, just like, kid, you got some gumption in you. Come back. You gotta try again. But that's so funny. Yeah, that we both dyed our hair, but you were successful and I was.
I had a success out of it, but I did have about 2 cans of colored mousse that I got at Lamston's drugstore. My hair was out to imagine stiff as a board. And I remember in the audition with Adam, who ended up playing my boyfriend, and we were both auditioning, and it's a scene, and he's like, oh, Daisy, and I could just almost hear his skin just being cut as it went across my over-moused hair. And then, yeah, leaving the subway, coming out after the audition, and I had on my white blouse and walking from the subway in the rain with 2 cans of dark mousse just running down all of me.
Okay, that's really surreal.
Yeah.
Like here we are, knock on wood, we've had good success in our careers, and we have these crazy audition, dripping dye, hair stories.
And now we're just rad 51-year-olds with naturally blonde hair.
That's right.